Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. This evening's guest writes for Horse Racing Nation and the Daily Gallop. I had him on a couple weeks ago to do the Kentucky Derby. He is back for the Preakness, and that is Jeffrey Byrnes. How are you doing on this Wednesday evening?
I'm doing good, Madison. How about you tonight?
I'm good. All right. Before we get into the Preakness in the field, we have to start what has been the biggest story in horse racing since the Derby ended, and that is the Derby winner, Medina Spirit, and the controversy surrounding him and testing positive for that drug, and then the trainer Bob Batford getting suspended from Churchill Downs due to it. What is your take on all of this?
Well, it's really it's an embarrassing situation just all around. Because this isn't just like some random race, like not like a claimer or an allowance race. This is the Kentucky Derby. Derby Day really is the biggest day for thoroughbred racing in American sports. It's like our day in the spotlight, essentially. So for this to happen in a race as big as the Kentucky Derby, it's embarrassing. It's disappointing. It's really sent shockwaves around the industry or to a lot of people. But just the whole situation is just a mess. And trainer Bob Batford came out on Sunday, announced that his horse had tested positive. He made pretty much a defiant statement saying that he never administered the drug, which is called betamethasone, which is basically almost like you're treating like a skin infection of some sort. But he said he never administered the horse betamethasone. But it later turned out he put out a statement on Tuesday saying that, in fact, it turns out that while treating the skin infection that Medina Spirit had, which apparently nobody knew about it until he put out the statement on Tuesday, which I'm sure the general public would love to have known that. But he put out on Tuesday that, in fact, one of the ingredients in the cream that he was treating Medina Spirit with did, in fact, have betamethasone in it. So it's not a good look when the trainer doesn't know what ingredients he's exactly treating his horse with. So really just a disappointing, embarrassing situation all around.
Absolutely, yeah. And Medina Spirit is in the Preakness as well. So do you know how long Bob Batford's suspension from Churchill Downs will last for?
As far as I know right now, indefinitely. There is no exact timetable for this to happen, for his suspension to end, but as of right now, it's indefinitely. And honestly, right now, Churchill Downs granted Bob Batford the right to have a split sample, which basically means the first sample, which came back positive on Medina Spirit, the connections required a second sample, and this really, it could be just a messy situation. It could get even messier, because if it turns out that the split sample also comes back positive, then it's basically confirmed Medina Spirit tested positive for a steroid, and he's going to be, and he will be disqualified from the victory in the Kentucky Derby. And second place horse Mandaloon will be outvalued to the winner. But if the sample comes back as a false positive, it's going to really be a bad look on the Kentucky Racing Commission, who pretty much samples all the horses before the Derby and what it says about their testing system. So it's just a horrible, horrible look all the way around. It's a terrible situation, and honestly, this is it's out of control with what has happened in this situation.
Absolutely, yeah. Either outcome, somebody's going to come off looking pretty bad. All right, let's move on to the Preakness, which is actually going to be taking place on Saturday, and we'll get to Medina Spirit in this field in a moment here. Number one is a horse called Ram D, 30-1 odds. What do you make of this horse?
Ram has, this will actually be his sixth debut. This will be his 10th career start for trainer Dean Wayne Lucas. He's won a couple of Preaknesses in his career. He actually won an allowance race on the Kentucky Derby card just 2 weeks ago. So he's coming back pretty quick. He's a long shot. He'll should be among the leaders early on. It's going to be very tough for him, though, from the inside. Probably, as the longest shot on the field, he might be overmatched.
Yeah, I would say so, too. All right, the number 2 horse in this field was in the Derby. Keep Me in Mind, 15-1. What do you make of Keep Me in Mind's chances to potentially make this race interesting?
Well, keep in mind, he's coming out of the Kentucky Derby. He was a fast-closing 7th. Really one of the only horses to close from the back of the pack. He's another one that's going to need pace in front of him. We'll get to the pace setters here in a little bit, but he's going to need a lot of pace in front of him. He just hasn't seemed like he's really upgraded his form from H2 to H3, so 15-1, I expect to be a little bit higher than that. He'll be coming late at the end, but it's another tall tax for him.
Yeah, and then here we are at Medina Spirit, 9-5 right now. Obviously, coming off what we were just talking about with the controversy, do you think he has a good shot to win this race too?
Yeah, I think he has a good shot. I mean, he's never finished worse than 3rd in his career. Well, obviously, we'll see if his foot sample comes back positive. He'll be disqualified from the win and place last. But my brutal honest opinion about his taking this race, I feel like Medina Spirit, I think for the sake of the sport, I don't think he should have been entered in this field because I think it's a bad look for Pimlico. It's a bad look for the Maryland Racing Commission who put him in this race. And at the end of the day, if he wins this race, there's going to be people, no matter what side, if you're on Batford side or if you're on the side of, or not on Batford side, that say, they'll cry foul whether he wins or if he loses or say finishes off the board. People are just going to cry foul. So it's going to be a really, really tough for Medina Spirits and Batfords to have claim of integrity in this situation. So I think certainly he has a chance of winning this race. If he can get to the lead like he did in the Derby, I think he has a good chance of staying up front. But the situation just keeps getting messier by the day. And obviously we'll see what happens Saturday. But win or lose, there will be an asterisk next to it.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. I'm surprised that Medina Spirit's actually in the race. I thought he would have been disqualified or suspended by now, but I guess not. So we'll see what happens once the second sample comes back.
Sorry to interrupt, but as far as Medina Spirit goes, the split sample that Churchill announced or that Bob Batford requested will most likely not be back for another week or two, from what I'm hearing. So once that sample comes back, if it comes back positive like it did the first test, then most likely he will be disqualified afterwards. If not, and it comes back as a false positive, then the situation becomes very, very murky.
Very, very true. I agree with you. The 4-horse in this race is Crowded Trade. He is 10-1. What do you make of Crowded Trade?
Crowded Trade is the one that kind of intrigues me a little bit. He's trained by Chad Brown. Chad Brown with a horse like Crowded Trade. He reminds me of another horse named Cloud Computing. Another fellow Chad Brown trainee who actually won the Preakness back in 2017. And Crowded Trade took a really similar route that Cloud Computing did. He ran 3rd in the Wood Memorial in his last start. The Connections were thinking about running him in the Derby, but they decided to skip him at point for the Preakness. So he'll be a much fresher horse coming into this race as he did if he ran in the Derby. Chad Brown knows how to win. Obviously knows how to win the Preakness. He's a late closer. He's a horse that kind of needs some pace, but he also has a fast closing kick. I really like the way he's looked in the morning. So if he gets a good pace, if he gets a nice trip on the outside, I think he'll certainly be around at the end.
Alrighty, number 5, Midnight Bourbon. This horse was in the Derby too. I thought about picking Midnight Bourbon to win the Derby, but I didn't. 5-1. What do you make of Midnight Bourbon this time around?
I like Midnight Bourbon too in the Derby. I think it actually finished 2nd, but he had a bit of a slow start. He was supposed to be among the pace setters, but obviously the slow start hurt him so much. But he finished 6th in the Derby. He comes back on the Preakness. I think this could be one of the biggest threats to Medina Spirit or to one of to the field. I think with a much better gate break, he'll definitely be either in front or just sitting right off the pace. I think post 5 is a perfect spot for him. He'll be right up there with the leaders. I think he'll appreciate the tight turns at Pimlico. And with a good trip, he's definitely going to be there at the end and definitely a win contender.
Yeah, I really think Midnight Bourbon has a real shot here. The 6-horse is Rombauer, 12-1. This horse was not in the Derby. What do you make of Rombauer?
I've always liked Rombauer. He's been a very very consistent racehorse. He's only won twice in his career of 6 starts. That win came in a maiden specialty and the El Camino Real Derby up in Berkeley, California. But his last race in the Bluegrass, he finished third behind Essential Quality and Highly Motivated. Both horses ran the Kentucky Derby, and it was a long way back to Rumbauer in third. I think I would toss that race out, particularly because it was a speed favoring track that day. The inside where Rumbauer was running towards the end wasn't exactly the best place to be on the track that day, but he's been coming in really, really good workouts. A very fresh horse. Mike McCarthy, when he ships out, he means business. I think he's definitely going to be a live player Saturday. Flavien Prat, a very talented jockey, will be aboard him, so he'll be among the closers as well. He'll probably be in the back with Keep Me in mind. So if he can get a good pace in front of him, I think with the long stretch of Pimlico, I think he'll definitely have a chance, especially within the exotics.
Yeah. All right. 7 is France Go Diana 20-1. This is one of the longer shots on the board. What do you make of this horse?
Well, this horse is actually a bit of a mystery. He comes over from Japan, so this is a Japanese-based entrant here in the Preakness Stakes. First time since 2018 we've had a Japanese runner in here. He's only run 4 times. He's won twice. Both of his wins were very impressive. His only run this year, though, was in the UAE Derby at Meydan Racecourse, in which he stumbled at the start. It was a large field of 15 in there, and he just never recovered. He ultimately finished a beaten 6th. I think that's a race that you could throw out. Certainly, he's a horse that's going to be among the pace setters, I think, early on. Jockey Joel Rosario, who is one of the best in the country, is aboard, so you can't go wrong there. He's 20-1 on the morning line. I won't be surprised if he's a little lower than that. So whether he's a win contender, I'm not so sure, but would not surprise me if he's somewhere in the top 4, though.
Yeah, it's an interesting horse for sure. I'd say he's the wild card of the field.
Definitely a wild card.
The 8th horse is Unbridled Honor, 15-1 on the morning line. What do you make of Unbridled Honor?
This is another horse who I think is just starting to round into form at the right time. Took him 3 tries to break the maiden. He broke it at Tampa Bay Downs on February 6th. Then he came as a fast-closing 4th in the Tampa Bay Derby. And then probably had his best runs to date when he was 2nd in the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland, behind King Fury, who was supposed to run in the Derby, but unfortunately scratched the day before the race. The Lexington was definitely his best effort to date. He has been working out very well in the mornings. Trainer Todd Fletcher, this is a very rare Preakness runner for Todd Fletcher. He usually doesn't send a lot of his horses to the Preakness. They usually go from Kentucky Derby, and they don't do well. They'll transition over to the Belmont Stakes, but Fletcher feels like this one has a very good chance. Luis Saez, top-notch jockey, 15-1 on the board. He'll be another one that's going to be coming off the pace, and the connections are going to be hoping for a fast pace in front of him, but he'll be running at the end. The question is, does he have enough time to get there?
Yeah, you're right about Todd Pletcher. His horses are never normally in the Preakness, so that's interesting that you brought that up. The 9 horse is Risk Taking, 15-1 on the morning line. Chad Brown again. What do you make of Risk Taking?
Yep, same owner, Claravich Stables, same trainer, Chad Brown, and it gets Jose Ortiz aboard him here. This horse, he's also a bit of a mystery to me because his last race in the Wood Memorial was not very good. It was a slow track that day, and he just didn't close into a slow pace. I just don't know if he exactly liked the track. It was a deep, tiring track. Pimlico should be a bit more on the faster side Saturday. The Connections actually entered Risk-Taking in the Peter Pan Stakes last week at Belmont Park, which is traditionally a prep for the Belmont Stakes. But the Connections decided to scratch him in favor of the Preakness this Saturday. So I guess you could say it's a bit of confidence that they think they'll run well here. 15-1 is a pretty good price on him, I think. We'll probably see something a little lower than that. He's a horse that will be coming from off the pace. His win in the Wither Stakes was very, very impressive at Aqueduct. So I would probably toss out that Wood Memorial. I think he definitely has a better chance on Saturday. He's just he's going to need some pace in front of him, and we'll have to see if his talent comes through.
Yeah, that's for sure. And last but not least, in the 10 spot Concert Tour, Bob Batford again, 5-2 on the morning line. What do you make of Concert Tour?
Well, this is as I said, it's Bob Batford, and Yeah, honestly, I think same thing with Dina Spirit. I understand it's different connections, but honestly, I'm not really a big fan of Batford running any horse at Pimlico this weekend. I think the whole thing's just a big distraction. But Pimlico obviously allowed him to be here, so here's Concert Tour. He's the horse that was really impressive in his first three starts. He won the San Vicente Stakes in his stakes debut in February, won the Rebel Stakes in very impressive fashion, and then was a very disappointing third in the Arkansas Derby. I say disappointing because he was the overwhelming favorite against a field that wasn't really all that tough, and then turning for home, it looks like he was going to pull away and win by open lengths, and then he just got very tired in the stretch and faded to third. I don't know if it was a track day or if anything else, but either way, the connections were going to originally enter him in the Kentucky Derby, but they decided not to and instead point to the Preakness. Concert Tour gets Mike Smith aboard for the first time. So Mike Smith, obviously one of the best jockeys of all time, so that's a positive for him. He'll be among the pace setters with Medina Spirit as well. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if these two are like a speed duel almost. But from the 10 post, he's going to have to overcome a wide post. And obviously, I think he's good enough. Depends on what kind of trip he gets.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm very fascinated for this race, obviously because of the two Batford horses and some of the other horses that I think have a shot here too. All right, who is your predicted winner of the Preakness this year?
Well, looking over, I like. I'm going to go Midnight Bourbon again. I think he was a lot better than what he showed in the Derby. Obviously, he didn't have the best of starts, and he was still there at the end, finishing sixth. He wasn't beaten by all that much. I think with a better post and a better gate break, he'll certainly be among the pace setters. He's shown that he can get the mile and 3/16. He's really almost never run a bad race in his career. So, Steve Asmussen, he's won the Preakness before with Curlin and Rachel Alexandra back in the late 2000s. So he's shown he could win this race. I like Midnight Bourbon for the win.
I agree with you. I'm going Midnight Bourbon too. Like I said, I thought about him for the Derby. I thought he raced well in the Derby. I'm going to go with Midnight Bourbon as my pick for the winner. How about your place?
Place? This maybe a little controversial. I'll go with Medina Spirit second. I think if he gets among the leaders, he'll definitely be around at the end. I said it back in the Derby that he's the horse that never likes to get passed, but he also never likes to pass any other horses. So I think if he can get to the leader, get to second place, it's going to be hard for other horses to pass him. So I like him for second.
I'm going to go with the other Bob Baffert horse for second, Concert Tour. I like Mike Smith, the jockey. Like you said, he's one of the best jockeys out there. I don't love going with the Baffert horse, especially after now with the whole controversy, but I'm going to go with Concert Tour as my place. And how about your show pick?
Well, my show pick, I like Concert Tour, to be honest. I think his effort was much better, should be much better this Saturday, but his Arkansas Derby still was a little perplexing because of how shocking he ran. I think he's been training much better. I think he's a much fresher horse for this race. So, obviously, Mike Smith, definitely a huge plus. He should be among the pace setters. So, I'll take Concert for a third.
I'm going to go with one of the longer shots for third. I'm going to go with Crowded Trade just to be different. I think that Karma will bite Medina Spirit a little bit. So, I'm going to go with Crowded Trade as my show, and I'm going to say the Medina Spirit finishes in fourth and is close to third. So I'm going to say Crowded Trade for the show. All right, is there any in the undercard that you like?
Yeah, there's some undercard races that are also very interesting. The race before the Preakness Stakes actually is a race called the Dinner Party Stakes. Grade 2 race on $250,000 purse on the grass, on turf. And Chad Brown has a horse in here named Sacred Life, who has not won a great stakes race yet, but he hasn't finished worse than fourth in the last few starts dating back to 2020 and 2021. In fact, he was third last time out in the Maker's Mark Mile at Keeneland. This is probably his best chance at a great stakes win this Saturday, but there's another Chad Brown trained runner here. This is the second of his runners, and there's a horse named Kuramata, who's an Irish-bred 4-year-old colt who has won two races in a row, both very impressively. Going into his sixth debut, I think he has a massive chance. He's 6-1 on the morning line. There's also Some Like It Hot Brown for trainer Mike Maker who will break from the one post. So very competitive race in there. You also have the Jim McKay Turf Sprint, which will be 13 horses going 5 furlongs on the turf. Very fast race. Very, very much up for grabs. Steve Atkinson has Boulder, who should be among the leaders early on. So lots of good races on the undercard.
Absolutely. All right, a couple things before we go. We talked about before we started recording the Brooklyn Nets. James Harden's going to be back tonight. What do you think are the chances are that they actually claim the New York's first championship since the Giants in 2012?
Well, getting Harden back will certainly be a plus. I think the next record ever, actually, since Harden left was like 18-17. So they've been playing about 500 basketball since Harden got hurt. And so it's actually, I think it's definitely helpful that he's going to be back in the lineup. Certainly you want the chemistry between Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, I don't even think Kyrie Irving's playing tonight. So it seems like one guy comes back and another guy leaves. So hopefully all 3 guys are there for the playoffs, and hopefully can stay healthy through the playoffs. But if they are, they're a very dangerous team, and I certainly think they can give Philadelphia a run for their money. A healthy Nets team can give Milwaukee a run for their money, so they definitely have a great chance.
I think they have an excellent chance, too. I think those are the best 3 teams in the East. I think there's a possibility, depending on how these next couple days play out, that Brooklyn falls to 3, Knicks falls to 6. Imagine that in the first round. Everybody would lose their minds.
Ugh, I'm not gonna lie, Madison. I'm terrified of the Knicks. I'm absolutely terrified. And I gotta admit, I've seen a lot of Knicks games this year, and I gotta say they're a really fun team to watch. They are really fun. Julius Randle, what he has done this year has been sensational. He should be an all NBA team, whether it's second or third team. Emmanuel Quickly, I mean, could you say diamond in the rough?
Oh my God.
Rookie. He's been sensational. I mean, just the role players and the job that Tom Thibodeau has done as head coach. I don't know if it'll be coach of the year, but I think she should definitely get some votes. But it's great for basketball when both the Knicks and the Nets are good. So if the Nets have to play the Knicks, I'm terrified. I'm not going to lie. I think that's going to be a tough series for the Nets.
Yeah, I think that will probably be like Nets in 5, maybe 6 if some of the net guys aren't back yet. I just think that the Nets have the best 3 players on the court in that series, and I don't know if the Knicks can match them bucket to bucket, although they were competitive with them in the regular season, especially at Barclays in those couple games. But you never know.
Hey, it's a whole new season once the playoffs start.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't think Nets-Knicks will happen because the Knicks have a couple easy home games to close the season, and they'll probably go like 2-1 in those games. I think it's Charlotte, Spurs. I know it's Spurs tomorrow, Charlotte, and the Celtics. And the Celtics, we know their season is just falling apart. So I think there's a chance the Knicks go 2-1 in those games, and they avoid Brooklyn in the first round, which gives them obviously a better shot to win a playoff series if they avoid Brooklyn in the first round. The New York Yankees, we did not touch on them the last time I had you on the show. When I had you on a couple weeks ago, they were struggling, to say the least. They really have turned it on. I believe it's 14-6 in the last 20, if I'm not mistaken, which is really, really good. It's like the reverse of the Dodgers. Like the Dodgers got off to that great start, they fell apart a little bit, and then the Yankees got off to the slow start, and they got hot. So it's like reverse roles in a way. Obviously, Luke Voigt's back, Gio Urshela's back, Glaber's out tonight. What do you make of the Yanks so far this season?
Yankees, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Obviously, you'd like to see them get off to a better start than what they got off to. And, I mean, I know for the last few years, 2018, 2019 in particular, they got off to slow starts, but this April was just bad. Like, they felt sloppy. Like, the defense was sloppy, the plate appearances were sloppy, and luckily it looks like they're starting to turn it around right now. So, Giancarlo Stanton, I think this is the best I've seen Giancarlo Stanton look since he came to the Yankees. Aaron Judge has been delivering some good hits. LeMay was in a bit of a slump in April, but he's starting to turn around. Obviously, Luke Boyd coming back is definitely a big plus, not only at first base, in the batter's box, but definitely at first base. I think I saw a stat where the Yankees actually have the lowest batting average of first baseman of any team in the league, so certainly his bat is definitely welcome back in the lineup. And so, obviously, you continue to hope that the turnaround continues, and hopefully on their way to an AL East crown.
Yeah, I just saw it. Yes, 3 homers, 10 RBI from Yankee first baseman this year, and I think that one of those games, DJ LeMahieu was playing at first base, and he had 2 home runs in the same game, and that was fairly recently. What do you think about the Mets so far? Similar start to the Yankees in a way, except they're more mediocre the whole way rather than hot and cold. But right now they're red hot. I think they've won, I want to say, 6 straight games. What do you make about the Mets right now?
Yeah, same thing. Mets. I think Mets. They've actually won 7 in a row. They actually won the game earlier today.
Oh, that's right.
They won. Yeah, they won 7 games in a row. Definitely another team where the pitching has been outstanding. What more can you say about Jacob deGrom? I know he's on the IL right now, but his game a couple weeks ago when he had 15 strikeouts and the complete game was just sensational. You could be able to make the argument Jacob deGrom is one of the best pitchers I've ever seen in my lifetime, and that's not an understatement. But he's been very dominant. Marcus Stroman has been very good since he came back. So the pitching wise has been very good. The bats, it seems like the bats are starting to turn around. I know they fired Chili Davis last week, and I don't think they've actually lost the game since they fired Chili Davis. So I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. But they're winning the NL East right now, 7-game winning streak, and I guess onward and upward, and they can keep going.
Yeah, all right. One last thing. I had you on right before the NFL draft. What do you make of both the Jets and the Giants drafts?
I think both teams did sensational. The New York Jets have a new quarterback in Zach Wilson. They were able to get him Tucker kid from USC, the offensive guard. I think he was one of the best guards in the draft. Certainly bolstered the offensive line. Him went next to Mekhi Becton, who also got Elijah Moore, so you got a wide receiver. So Joe Douglas isn't messing around. He used his picks to A, draft his quarterback, and B, get the quarterback some help. So, which is what they did not do with Sam Darnold for some reason. They completely messed that whole thing up. And as far as the New York Giants go, I absolutely love what they did. Obviously it stunk that the Eagles jumped ahead of them and got Devontae Smith, but the Giants trading back, getting Chicago's first-round pick in 2022, I think was a brilliant move by the Giants, by Dave Gettleman and the organization. And Kadarius Toney. A lot of people talked about Kyle Pitts as the lead wide receiver down in Florida, but Kadarius Toney, his senior year at Florida, he was not bad himself. He had over 1,000 yards scrimmage-wise. I think you could use them all over the field. They were able to get the Ojale from Georgia, so that's certainly another pass rusher for the Giants. So you add picks, you get some potential needs. I think the Giants did very, very well this draft.
I think that both teams did very well this draft as well. All right, Jeff, it was a pleasure to have you on today. We'll certainly have you on Belmont Week, the preview to Belmont, and obviously the NBA and NHL will be deep into the playoffs by then, so we'll talk NBA playoffs as whether Brooklyn's still in it or not. And same for the Knicks. Probably not the Knicks. More likely the Nets in that case. And I hope you enjoyed the Preakness.
All right, thanks, Madison. Have a good night.
You too.